Hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Sensitivity. That's our topic today. And so this topic is recorded because we're in the 5th week of our level 3 program with in-person practitioners, and well, we've been having a really good time with each of the weeks prior to this, diving into specific topics such as opening, tuning, rhythm, listening, which to us are all like general concepts, but they relate directly to our spiritual practice, and we can develop certain qualities and competencies through our spiritual practice, which then actually have a bigger and broader impact in our lives. And to us, this is really what we like to say functional spirituality is, right? And just keep repeating that, I guess, phrase, right? Functional spirituality, is that a phrase? 2 words. But you guys have heard us say that before, and so we're just grateful to be continuing with these videos and to be continuing kind of diving into these topics because, well, yeah, sensitivity. It's like, where do we start with that one? Where do we start with the concept of sensitivity, and then hopefully we can paint a broad picture of how we relate to this concept, and then also tie it together with some of the threads that you're already familiar with being a practitioner with Bridge the Gap Yoga and all of the other things that we've kind of developed along our path together. So that breath right there, that me taking a breath, was to really kind of resensitize, to center myself, but then resensitize my system to the new information coming in. And I'm just using myself as an example in this moment because the first part of this video is me just kind of ranting, right? Rambling and just getting a lot of information out. And the energy started to increase in me, probably in you. You feel it in this room. And as the energy increases, right, we're starting to feel like there's more information to process. I think is a good way to put that. There's more information to process if there's more energy. And if our system isn't sensitive enough, then we actually start to withdraw from processing that information. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like if you haven't developed the sensitivity in your own mind-body system, then we actually have a smaller window by which we perceive life. And so when I take those clearing breaths, it's to like reground my energy, but also for anybody who's listening and who's tapped into me in this moment, it's to help us like, let's kind of settle for a bit so that what's coming next, we can process it, right? Because I think for all of us, we know what it's like to have too much on our plate, right? We know what it's like to be, we also know what it's like when there's too much on our plate and something happens and it puts us over the edge and we just immediately push it away, or it triggers us, right? Or we also know what it's like to really clear some space and then be able to go into an environment where there's a lot of energy or there's a lot of charge and be able to still feel that situation without unplugging from it or without reacting to it. And so for us, this is a really big deal, right? Because why else are we practicing if not to be able to not only engage in difficult conversations, but process the difficult thoughts and feelings that we ourselves are having, right? And to sensitize ourselves to our own inner environment and the process that we're going through. And so for me, being sensitive and increasing this competency of sensitivity is learning how to listen. There's that word listening from the previous week. But how to listen to myself and to know really what steps I need to take to stay in relationship to myself and then keep that relationship open to life. And so I think that'd be my kind of first conclusion on what sensitivity is for me and how it relates to me, and kind of my general philosophy around it. And before I go into, or before we get into talking about like the practical applications of this and how our practice helps with increasing sensitivity, I'll pass it to Jaden, and if you want to just talk a little bit about sensitivity in your own words.
Yeah, for sure. So for sensitivity for me is similar to Grant, just the ability to receive life as it is. And, you know, in my experience, when you get into a situation where there's a lot of energy and you can feel there's a lot of emotion or something that the energy has risen a lot, it's easy for us to kind of disassociate from life in those circumstances. And so the sensitivity that we cultivate through practice is enabling us to be with life, to be in relationship to what is currently going on in our experience, so that we can, you know, actually, you know, if we're talking to somebody and it's a, you know, challenging conversation or, you know, whatever we're experiencing in life, so we can actually be there and like be a host for life, and through being present with what's here, we can actually alchemize the situation into something that the benefit of all. The benefit, I believe, you know, is the evolution that comes through in those moments when we're actually like with life and we're relating to life. Otherwise, we're just recreating the past. And so developing the sensitivity is an important aspect, especially I feel in the Western culture, because I feel that we've become, you know, very intellectual and in the mind a lot, and not as much feeling. You know, we've not emphasized feeling as much in this Western paradigm, and so for me, in my experience, it's been a lot of work to bring that back into my life, especially as a male, and being able to feel my environment and like have that relationship with myself, the inner voice, and like what is my feeling in the moment, rather than like conceptualizing and like taking me away, disassociating myself from the current moment and not being in relationship to whatever my experience is. And so this has been, you know, a big evolution in my practice of just, you know, noticing how I can become more sensitive to my body and more sensitive to my environment, because I'm more sensitive to what's going on internally.
Nice. Yeah, I love what you said about feeling. Like I liked what I was hearing as you were speaking. I was thinking about something that I've said before, is feeling is knowing. Because you're feeling, and this is, I think what we have to discern now is the difference between sensation, feeling, and thought. Because those are different levels of experience. And what I'd like to suggest is that we can rely on what our body's wisdom is communicating to us. We can rely on our feeling about things as a compass, generally. And sometimes that means I'm feeling this way, let me examine why I'm feeling that way, and then we can unravel an answer. And sometimes it's I'm feeling this way, let me sit with that. And like Jaden said, not disassociate, not react, but then respond from that feeling. Does that make sense? Like, I am feeling this way, not you made me feel this way. It's like, I'm feeling this way, and this is like my situation internally, and like maybe you can help me with that process. And that, to me, helps facilitate this connection that we want between human beings, right? Because it's like, if I'm feeling a certain way and I can communicate that to you accurately, one, that opens a portal that Jaden can now come in and potentially help me with how I'm feeling. And I'm asking, you know, I'm saying like, hey, I'm feeling this way, and like I'm starting to tune with you. And then you can see me, right? That's a big thing, is like, can I show myself to you? Can I be sensitive enough to my own experience in this moment? And then the courage to just trust, right? Find the rhythm in this person that like, where can we dance together? Well, I have to show up where I'm at in order for a dance to unfold. And when we learn how to take all of these concepts, opening, tuning, rhythm, listening, now sensitivity, into our life, and we have a practice that we can practice these things, right? We get up and we do our sadhana, we open, we tune to ourself, we tune to our body, we tune to our feelings, we find a rhythm with our breath. And then feeling that whole time, really developing sensitivity to the breath. Is my whole body breathing? Do I feel the breath in my whole body? Can I feel it in my fingertips as I'm inhaling? Can I feel it in the webbing of my hands, in my toes? And these are things that we can practice. That's, I think, my key point, that we can practice developing these things, and then when we go out into our lived experience, they just automatically happen. They're, like, again, what Jaden said, they're no longer conceptual or intellectual, but they're actually our lived experience. And so to become embodied spiritual practitioners means that we develop core principles of practice and core competencies that relate to every area of our life, so that when I'm visualizing who I'm becoming, or so that when I'm visualizing how I want my life to be, in, like, at the end of my meditation and I'm saying my prayers and I'm completing my sadhana, I move into my day and it's a seamless process, right? Everything happens the way that it's supposed to happen, because it's all really tuning me. It's like step by step by step. I'm feeling and I'm responding. I'm feeling and then I'm responding. And I'm feeling and I'm responding according to an inner compass, which is that deep part of us that brought us to this video, right? It's the teacher in you. It's the teacher in me. It's the teacher in Jaden. The real guru. G-U-R-U. Right? And that there's an inspiration inside of you that guides you and moves you in the direction that your life is calling to you. And if there's one thing that we're always hoping to remind everybody, is that follow your inspiration, because it's taking you where you actually want to go. But how do you become sensitive enough to that inspiration? Right? How do you sensitize yourself to what that inner voice is asking to you? And how often do you open to it and tune with it and find a rhythm listening to it and sensitize yourself to it? And then taking that inspiration and then watching as your life literally manifests every experience and outcome that you need to become who you are destined to be and who you want to become, and where your inspiration is calling to you. And so we're sitting here because of our sensitivity with each other, right? And developing just as a partner, as a team, as a partnership, as friends, as teachers and students, and being sensitive in either of those spaces, and like being able to meet and feel and respond, and then, right? And through this process, and through the process that you're going through, all of the areas of your life just start to fall into place. And they just start to fall into place. And I think my final thought here is that, like, living our best life is available to everybody. It's available to you now. Like, you can have the best day of your life today. And you might, well, yeah, I'll say that. Today is the best day of our life, because it's today, right? And can we approach each day in that way? Can we be so grateful for this experience? I think I'm on a completely different thread by now, but You have any final thoughts?
I would just say, it's a process as well. Like developing our sensitivity to our life is a process, and it's really, for me, comes down to just trusting in the inner wisdom that's coming through us all, and building that relationship with that space. And as you become more sensitive to it, that's how you notice the changes and the transformation that is making you work towards who you can become. And so trust the process, trust the energy, and it takes us far when we are willing to trust in the energy that is coming through us, and the inner wisdom. But it takes time, I think, to develop that trust, and just practice. That's why we practice this, and that's why we think it's important to bring this awareness of this quality, this competency into our practice.
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, I would just conclude with what Jaden's thought and the why we practice, but then how we practice sensitivity. Well, we kind of alluded to it through this video, but in more specificity, like for the next week, your homework might be, or I would encourage it to be, feel your breath with your whole body. Really emphasize that, because your breath is what animates every cell in your body, right? You have 50 trillion or 100 trillion cells in your body, and each one of them requires oxygen. Each one of them responds to the breath. Each one of them has its own ebb and flow, the pulse and contract cycle. Everything in the universe has that, right? The oceans, the electrons, the orbit of the Earth around the sun, everything is ebbing and flowing. And so can we become sensitive to that ebb and that flow? And especially your whole body's breathing, when you get to the next breath cycle, really follow those threads of sensitivity, right? Keep bringing in awareness into your body, and keep practicing embodiment. Really practice embodiment and what that means, and how to feel more of yourself, not just in your practice. Do it specifically in your practice, but then take that through your week, month, year, the rest of your life. And I think that we can close on that now. I think that's a good conclusion, unless you have any last thoughts.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Well, thank you for your conclusions, and thank you for your practices, and we hope this video is helpful, and stay sensitive. Keep feeling your heart. Bless you guys.